Jake Morrison sat in the cold metal chair and watched 47 alien species decide his planet's fate. The Galactic Council chamber stretched out before him like a giant crystal cave. Beings of every shape and size filled the curved benches that rose up in circles around the center floor where Jake sat alone at a small table. The air smelled like ozone and something sweet that made his nose itch. Strange lights danced across the ceiling in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Jake kept his face calm even though his heart was beating fast. He had been Earth's ambassador to the Council for 5 years, and he knew this day would come. Council. Prime Valdris floated above the assembly in a sphere of crackling energy. The being looked like liquid metal that had learned to think. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere at once and sounded like wind through broken glass. "We gather today to address the human problem," Valdris announced. The word problem echoed around the chamber in a dozen different languages as translators worked. Over time, Jake almost smiled. Problem, that was one way to put it. The first to speak was Ambassador Crix from the Zephyrian Trade Federation. The insect-like being clicked its mandibles together, and what Jake had learned was their version of clearing their throat. "The humans have become impossible to work with," Crix said. "They ignore our established trade routes. They undercut our prices with their reckless efficiency. They make deals with species we have blacklisted for good reasons." Jake remembered the Helix Collective deal that had made Crix so angry. The spider-like Helix had been shut out of galactic trade for 300 years because they asked too many questions about Council policies. When human traders offered them fair prices for their unique bioplastics, the Council had thrown a fit. Next came the ethereal Luminari representative. The being of pure light flickered as it spoke. Human explorers continued to push into forbidden sectors. They ignore our warnings about dangerous space. They map systems we have declared off-limits for the safety of all species. Jake thought about Captain Alex Thompson and his crew on the Aurora's edge. They had found 17 new habitable worlds in the past year alone. Worlds, the Council said, were too dangerous to explore. Worlds that turned out to be perfectly safe and rich with resources. One by one, the Council members listed their complaints. Humans were too curious, too willing to take risks, too quick to question old rules, too eager to form alliances with species the Council preferred to keep isolated, too independent. When it was Jake's turn to speak, he stood slowly. The chamber fell silent except for the hum of alien technology. Jake looked around at the assembled beings. Some had ruled their worlds before humans had invented the wheel. Others came from civilizations that had mastered faster-than-light travel when Earth was still cooling from its birth. "Honored Council," Jake began, his voice carrying clearly in the vast space. "I have listened to your concerns about humanity's behavior in galactic affairs. I understand that our ways may seem strange to those who have followed the same patterns for thousands of years." Valdris pulsed with impatience. "Do you dispute these charges, Ambassador Morrison?" "No," Jake said simply. "We are curious. We do take risks. We do question rules that seem outdated or unfair. We make friends with species you have chosen to ignore. These are not flaws in our character. They are features." A low murmur ran through the chamber. Several species made sounds that Jake recognized as disapproval. "The Council has been generous to humanity," Valdris continued. "We welcomed you into galactic society when you were barely capable of leaving your own solar system. We shared our technology. We gave you access to trade networks that took us millennia to build. We expected gratitude and cooperation in return." Jake nodded slowly. "And we have been grateful. Human scientists have made 17 major technological breakthroughs in the past decade that have benefited every Council species. Human traders have increased galactic commerce by 30%. Human explorers have mapped over 200 new systems and found resources that have made everyone richer. Yet you continued to disrupt our carefully maintained order," the Corvallian delegate interjected. The rock-like being's voice sounded like grinding stone. "You upset balances that have kept peace for centuries." "Perhaps," Jake said, "the peace you speak of is really just stagnation in disguise. The chamber erupted in angry sounds from dozens of species. Valdris had to pulse brighter to restore order. "Enough," the Council Prime said. "The decision has been made. Humanity has proven itself unable to function within the framework of galactic civilization. You are too disruptive, too unpredictable, too unwilling to accept guidance from your betters." Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. This was it. "Therefore," Valdris continued, "the Galactic Council hereby grants humanity full independence from Council oversight and protection. You have 30 standard days to withdraw all human presence from Council space. After that time, any human vessel found in Council territory will be considered a hostile intrusion." The chamber fell silent. Jake could hear his own heartbeat. Independence? They were calling it independence, but everyone knew it was exile, banishment. The Council was cutting humanity loose and expecting them to drift away into the darkness. Between stars. Jake gathered his papers and data pads with steady hands. He had prepared for this moment, but it still felt surreal. When he stood to leave, he looked directly at Valdris. "Thank you," Jake said clearly, "for your generosity in granting humanity this freedom. I am sure we will make good use of it." Something in his tone made several council members shift uneasily in their seats. Jake bowed politely to the assembly and walked toward the exit. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. As the massive doors began to close behind him, Jake allowed himself a small smile. The council thought they were getting rid of a problem. They thought humanity would struggle and fail without their guidance and protection. They thought humans would come crawling back within a few years, begging to be readmitted on any terms. They had no idea what they had just done. They had no idea what humanity was capable of when the gloves came off and the rules no longer applied. They had just freed the most adaptable, innovative, and stubborn species in the galaxy from all restrictions and oversight. Jake activated his communicator as he walked through the crystal corridors toward his ship. "This is Ambassador Morrison. To Earth Command. The Council has just granted us complete independence. Effective immediately, we are no longer bound by any Council regulations, technology restrictions, or territorial agreements." The response came quickly. "Understood, Ambassador. Admiral Carter sends her thanks. Operation New Dawn is now authorized to proceed." Jake smiled wider as he reached his ship. The Council had let humans go, thinking they were solving a problem. Soon they would learn what they had really lost, and by then it would be far too late to get it back. 6 months after the Council's decision, Captain Crix discovered that space travel had become a nightmare. The Zephyrian trade ship Prophet's Edge limped through the outer rim systems at half its normal speed. What used to be a simple 14-day run from the mining worlds to the core had stretched into 26 days of frustration and delays. Crix clicked his mandibles in anger as he stared at the navigation display. The route that had made him rich for 30 years was falling apart. Every fuel depot that humans had operated was gone. Every repair station with human technicians had closed. Every navigation beacon that humans had maintained had gone dark. "Captain," his second officer buzzed nervously, "we are running low on fusion cells again. The Corvallian depot at Junction 7 is asking triple rates for fuel." Crix's compound eyes glittered with rage. Triple rates for fuel that used to cost standard prices when the humans ran the depot. He had fired 3 human crew members the day after the Council's announcement. Now he was paying for that decision every day. On the other side of the galaxy, Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in her new laboratory on Mars and smiled at the quantum field generator humming before her. For 5 years, the Council had limited her research. They said humans were not ready for advanced communication technology. They said the risks were too great for a young species to handle. Now, with those restrictions gone, Elena had accomplished in 6 months what Council scientists claimed was impossible. The device before her could send messages instantly across any distance. No more waiting weeks for signals to cross space. No more losing contact with distant colonies. "Elena!" called her research partner, Dr. Kevin Walsh. "The test connection with Alpha Centauri is stable. We are getting real-time responses from the colony there." Elena nodded and typed commands into her console. Send word to Admiral Carter on Earth. Tell her that Project Instant Voice is ready for military deployment. The breakthrough had come from working with the Draconians. The lizard-like species had approached humanity quietly after the Council's decision. They offered to share bio-neural interface technology in exchange for human engineering skills. The Council had forbidden such cooperation before, claiming it was too dangerous. Captain Alex Thompson adjusted his ship's new sensors and grinned at what he saw. The Aurora's Edge now carried detection equipment that could map star systems from 3 light-years away. Without Council restrictions on human ship design, his engineering team had created something beautiful. "Captain," called Navigation Officer Lisa Park, "we have found another one. The system shows signs of ancient technology. Same energy signatures as the other sites." Alex studied the readings with growing excitement. This was the 10th location they had found in unexplored space. The Council had declared these regions too dangerous to investigate. They had been wrong about the danger, but they had also been wrong about something much more important. The ancient ruins they kept finding all responded to human presence in ways they never did for other species. Automated systems that had been silent for millions of years activated when humans approached. Star maps revealed themselves. Defense platforms powered up. It was as if the precursor race that built these things had been waiting for humanity to find them. "Set course for the planet in the 3rd orbit," Alex ordered. "And send a coded message to Earth Command. Tell them we have found number 15. Earth. Senator Patricia Wells stood before the newly formed human colonial Senate in the Great Hall they had built under the Martian surface. Representatives from 43 human colonies sat in neat rows, their faces reflecting the determination that had spread across human space since the Council's decision. "Fellow humans," Patricia began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber, "we have been given a gift we did not expect. The Galactic Council has freed us from their oversight and their limitations. They have given us the chance to become what we were always meant to be." The senators listened as Patricia outlined humanity's new direction. No more asking permission to explore dangerous systems. No more limiting their technology to what the Council thought was safe. No more accepting junior status in a galaxy where age seemed to matter more than ability. "We will trade with any species that treats us as equals," Patricia continued. "We will share our discoveries with those who share theirs with us. We will defend ourselves and our allies without asking anyone's permission." The vote was unanimous. Every human colony endorsed the new doctrine of independence and mutual respect. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, the first cracks in the Council's authority were showing. The Helix Collective had publicly thanked humanity for breaking the trade embargo that had isolated them for centuries. The Draconian Republic was openly questioning why they had ever agreed to limit their scientific research to please the Council. Admiral Lisa Carter read the reports flowing into Earth Command and felt a mixture of pride and concern. Humanity was adapting to independence faster than anyone had expected. Human colonies were thriving. Human technology was advancing at an unprecedented rate. Human explorers were making discoveries that would have been impossible under Council oversight. But the reports also showed something else. The Council was starting to struggle without human involvement. Trade routes were failing. Exploration had nearly stopped. Several Council species were quietly reaching out to human colonies, asking for help with problems they used to solve easily. "Admiral," her aide announced, "we have received another diplomatic inquiry." "The Corvallians want to discuss reopening trade relations," Lisa smiled grimly. "Tell them we are open to negotiations on the basis of mutual respect and equal partnership. No special deals for former Council members." The aide nodded and left. Lisa turned back to her reports. 3 more species had approached humanity in the past week. All of them were offering things that would have been unthinkable 6 months ago: equal partnerships, technology sharing. Military cooperation. The Council had thought they were getting rid of a troublesome junior member. Instead, they had created a competitor. And that competitor was growing stronger every day while they grew weaker. Dr. Rodriguez's quantum communicator chimed with an incoming message from the edge of human space. She read it twice before believing what she saw. Captain, Thompson had found something that changed everything. Ancient technology that responded only to humans. Technology that might be the key to understanding why humanity had always been different from the other species. Elena forwarded the message to Admiral Carter with a priority flag. Whatever humanity had lost when the Council banished them, they were finding something much more valuable in return. They were finding out who they really were and what they were truly capable of achieving. The Council had set them free, thinking they were solving a problem. They had no idea they had just created their replacement. 2 years had passed since the Council dismissed humanity, and Marshal Vex stood in the command center of Nexus Prime watching his carefully ordered galaxy fall apart. The holographic display before him showed red warning markers across 17 different sectors. Each marker represented a Council world under attack by the Savage Imperium, a species that had emerged from the Galactic Rim with technology that matched anything the Council possessed. Marshal, reported Commander Zell, a multi-tentacled being, whose species had served the Council military for 8 centuries. We have lost contact with 3 more defensive positions in the Keth sector. The Savage forces are using tactics we cannot predict. Vex studied the tactical display with growing frustration. For 3,000 years, the Council's military doctrine had been simple and effective. Overwhelming force applied through established patterns that had won countless conflicts. Now they faced an enemy that seemed to anticipate every move, counter every strategy, and adapt to every weapon. How do they know our battle plans before we implement them? Vex wondered aloud. The answer came from an unexpected source. A communication request appeared on his personal display, marked with diplomatic priority codes. The sender was Jake Morrison, now serving as Earth's Foreign Secretary. Marshal Vex, Jake's image appeared on the screen. I thought you should know that we have been monitoring the Savage Imperium's communications. They have been studying captured Council vessels and equipment for the past 5 years. Your tactical database, your weapon specifications, your defensive protocols. They know everything about how you fight because your methods have not changed in millennia. Vex felt something cold settle in his chest. And you chose to inform us of this. Why? Jake's expression remained neutral. Because innocent beings are dying while you figure out what we learned in our first month of independence. Rigid thinking loses wars. The communication ended, leaving Vex staring at a blank screen. 5 minutes later, confirmation arrived from Council Intelligence. The Savage Imperium had indeed been collecting and analyzing Council technology. Their rapid advancement was not natural evolution but systematic study of their enemy's weaknesses. On the planet Dracos Prime, General Chris Nelson stood beside his Draconian counterpart, War Chief Scareth, watching their joint training exercises. Human soldiers worked alongside Draconian warriors, their different fighting styles blending into something neither species could achieve alone. Your people learn quickly, Scareth observed, his scaled hide rippling with approval. Most species take decades to adapt to new combat situations. Humans master them in weeks. Chris nodded as he watched a mixed unit successfully complete an assault course designed by both species. We have had to be adaptable. Every human settlement started with nothing but determination and whatever they could carry. You learn to improvise or you die. The joint exercises were producing remarkable results. Human flexibility combined with draconian strength and tactical discipline created fighting units that could handle any situation. More importantly, they were developing strategies that neither species would have thought of separately. General, called Major Susan Hayes, Chris's intelligence officer, we have intercepted Savage communications from the Keth sector. They are planning something big for the Council Core worlds. Chris and Scareth exchanged glances. The Draconian Republic had officially withdrawn from the Council 6 months ago, but they still had allies among the core species. Innocent civilians would suffer if the Savage forces reached the heavily populated inner systems. In her laboratory on Mars, Dr. Elena Rodriguez made the final adjustments to her latest creation. The quantum communication array now connected 47 human colonies, 6 draconian worlds, and 12 planets belonging to other species that had chosen to ally with humanity rather than remain under Council authority. "Elena," called Dr. Kevin Walsh from across the lab, "we are receiving a priority message from Captain Thompson's exploration fleet. He says it is urgent." Elena activated the communication link and Captain Alex Thompson's face appeared on the screen. Behind him she could see the bridge of his ship, but something was different. The lighting had a strange quality, and there were new displays showing information she had never seen before. "Dr. Rodriguez," Alex began, "we have made a discovery." "That changes everything." "The ancient defense network we found is not just automated platforms scattered through space. It is a complete military system designed to protect this entire galaxy from outside threats." Elena leaned forward, fascinated. "How do you know this?" "Because the system has been trying to communicate with us," Alex replied. "The precursor race that built these platforms encoded their language into the human genetic pattern somehow. When we approach their technology, it recognizes us and activates protocols that have been dormant for millions of years." The implications hit Elena like a physical blow. Humanity was not just another species that had evolved naturally. They were somehow connected to an ancient civilization that had built galaxy-spanning defenses against threats from beyond. "Alex," she said carefully, "how much of this system have you activated?" "About 30% so far," he replied. "Each platform we bring online reveals the location of others. The network stretches through every sector of the galaxy, including Council, space." "Elena, this system was designed to fight something like the Savage Imperium, something that comes from outside and tries to conquer established civilizations. On Nexus Prime, Council Prime Valdris received reports that made no sense. Human military forces had been spotted in sectors where no human colonies existed. Ships, using unknown technology, were appearing near threatened Council worlds. Most confusing of all, ancient space platforms that had been dark for millions of years were suddenly active." "Explain this," Valdris demanded of Marshal Vex. "We cannot," Vex replied honestly. "Human vessels are operating in deep space using technology we do not recognize. They appear to be activating precursor artifacts that our scientists have studied for centuries without success." The truth was even more disturbing than they realized. Humanity had not just survived their exile from Council space. They had discovered something that made them potentially more powerful than the Council itself. And they were using that power to build alliances with species that had grown tired of Council authority. Captain Crix of the Zephyrian Trade Federation sat in a cantina on Frontier Station, drowning his financial sorrows in fermented kelp juice. His once profitable trade routes had collapsed completely without human support infrastructure. Worse, human traders now offered better prices and faster delivery than he could manage. "Captain Crix," a voice said behind him. He turned to see a human woman in a simple business suit. "My name is Rachel Stone. I represent the Human Colonial Trade Council. We would like to offer you an exclusive partnership agreement." Crix's mandibles clicked with bitter laughter. "Partnership? Your people destroyed my business when you left Council space." Rachel sat down across from him. "No, Captain. The Council destroyed your business when they forced us to leave. We are offering you a chance to rebuild it on better terms. Equal partnership, shared profits, and access to routes the Council never knew existed." She placed a datapad on the table. The numbers on the screen made Crix's eyes widen. The humans were offering him more profit in 1 year than he had made in the past 5 under Council regulations. "What do you want in return?" he asked suspiciously. "Simple," Rachel replied. "Help us reach other species that are tired of Council limitations. Show them that there is a better way to do business." As Crix studied the contract, he realized something important. The humans were not trying to replace the Council with another controlling authority. They were offering something completely different. A galaxy where species work together as equals. Rather than following orders from ancient hierarchies, the Council had let humans go, thinking they were solving a problem. Instead, they had released the one force in the galaxy capable of showing everyone what freedom actually looked like. The Savage Imperium's second wave struck like a hammer against crystal. Marshal Vex watched in horror as two more council worlds went dark on his tactical display. The planet Corvallis, home to 12 billion beings, fell silent in the span of 6 hours. The mining world of Theta Prime simply vanished from all sensors as if it had never existed. How is this possible? Vex demanded of his staff. Corvallis had planetary shields that could withstand a supernova blast. Commander Zell's tentacles writhed with anxiety as he delivered the report. The Savage forces used some kind of resonance weapon that turned the planet's own shields against it, then made the defense grid collapse inward and crush the cities. Vex stared at the empty space where Corvallis used to be. 3 years of fighting the Savage Imperium had taught him one terrible truth. Every tactic the Council tried was anticipated and countered. Every weapon they deployed was analyzed and neutralized. The enemy fought like they could read Council minds. On the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Lisa Carter studied the same battle. Reports with very different eyes. The Savage Imperium's rapid adaptation was not magic or superior technology. It was systematic analysis of predictable patterns. They are fighting the Council the same way humans would, she told her staff in the war room beneath Luna Base. Hit the predictable responses, exploit the rigid thinking, and use their own strength against them. General Chris Nelson activated a holographic display showing Savage fleet movements. Look at this pattern. They attack with overwhelming force. Force the Council to respond with standard defensive formations, then adapt their strategy to counter those exact formations. The Council has been using the same tactical manual for 3,000 years, added Intelligence Chief Robert Hayes. The Savage Imperium has been studying that manual for 5 years. They know what the Council will do before the Council does. Lisa nodded grimly. The question is whether we help them learn to adapt or let them fall. The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Lelena Rodriguez contacted the meeting from her quantum communication center on Mars. Admiral, we are receiving distress calls from 17 different species in Council space. Not military requests, but civilian populations asking for protection. The holographic display changed to show population centers across the galaxy. Lisa saw the names of species that had barely noticed humanity when they were part of the Council. Now they were begging for help from the people they had dismissed as primitive newcomers. The Draconians are requesting immediate assistance, Elena continued. 3 of their border worlds are under Savage attack and Council forces in the area have withdrawn to protect core systems. Chris and Lisa exchanged looks. The Draconian Republic had been humanity's first real ally after the exile. War Chief Scareth had stood by human colonies when everyone else turned away. Prepare the first human battle fleet, Lisa ordered. General Nelson, how quickly can you deploy the joint human-Draconian task forces? 12 hours, Chris replied. We have been training for this scenario. Lieutenant Commander Grace Hamilton stood on the bridge of the human battleship, New Earth, and watched her mixed fleet drop out of hyperspace near the Draconian world of Keth Prime. Around her, 20 human vessels flew in formation with 15 Draconian ships and a handful of vessels from smaller species that had allied with humanity. All ships report ready for combat, announced her tactical officer, Commander Paul Mitchell. The Savage fleet is holding position between us and the planet. Grace studied the enemy formation with interest. The Savage Imperium ships were sleek and dark, built for speed and striking power. Intelligence reports said they could adapt their weapons and shields during battle. Council forces had learned this the hard way. Signal all ships, Grace ordered. Implement Formation Delta 7. Formation Delta 7 was something new, developed through joint human-Draconian exercises, instead of maintaining rigid battle. Lines like Council doctrine required, the mixed fleet would flow like water around enemy positions. Ships would support each other in constantly changing patterns that could not be predicted or countered. The Savage fleet moved to intercept using tactics that would have destroyed any Council force. They concentrated overwhelming firepower on the predicted command ship and attempted to break the formation's center. It was a strategy that had worked perfectly for 3 years, but Grace's fleet was not following council patterns. When the savage ships targeted what appeared to be the command vessel, they found it was actually a decoy. The real commanders were distributed throughout the formation, coordinating through Dr. Rodriguez's quantum communication system. When they tried to break the center, they found there was no center to break. Enemy ships are adapting their weapons to our shield frequencies, reported Mitchell. Execute Protocol Chaos. Grace replied calmly. Protocol Chaos was perhaps humanity's greatest contribution to galactic warfare. Instead of maintaining consistent shield frequencies like every other species, human ships could randomize their defensive patterns every few seconds. The savage adaptation systems could not lock onto targets that changed their fundamental properties constantly. The battle lasted 4 hours and ended with the complete destruction of the savage fleet. For the first time in 3 years, Council, space witnessed a total victory against the IMPER. The news of the victory spread across the galaxy faster than official council communications could suppress it. Species that had never heard of Formation Delta 7 or Protocol Chaos suddenly wanted to know how humans fought so differently from everyone else. On Nexus Prime, Council Prime Valdris faced a crisis unlike anything in 3 millennia of Council history. Member species were openly questioning the effectiveness of Council military doctrine. The Corvallian delegate had demanded to know why human forces could achieve in hours what Council fleets could not accomplish in years. Perhaps, suggested the Luminare representative, we should request human assistance in developing new tactics. The chamber fell silent at this suggestion. Ask for help from the species they had exiled? Admit that the humans had been right about the need for change and adaptation? Absolutely not, declared the Zephyrian delegate. We cannot legitimize their defiance by seeking their aid. But privately, Marshal Vex was already drafting a very different kind of message. Not an official council request, but a personal communication to Admiral Carter. The galaxy was burning and pride was a luxury he could no longer afford. The message was simple: we need you. Admiral Carter read Vex's plea and felt no satisfaction in being proven right. Billions of innocent beings were dying while the Council's leadership struggled with wounded pride. But there was something else in Vex's message that caught her attention. The Savage Imperium was not just attacking Council worlds anymore. Their latest movement suggested they were preparing for something much larger. Intelligence reports indicated massive fleet buildups near the galactic core. They were not content with conquering individual systems. They wanted to break the Council completely. Lisa activated her secure communication line to Jake Morrison on Earth. Jake, we have a problem. The Savage Imperium is planning a final assault on Nexus Prime itself. If they succeed, the entire Council structure collapses and 47 species lose their central government. Jake's response was immediate. What do you recommend? We help them, Lisa said. Not because they deserve it, but because the alternative is chaos that will consume everyone, including us. And our terms? Lisa smiled grimly. Complete restructuring of galactic government. No more hierarchies based on age or tradition. Equal representation for all species. And humans get a voice in any decisions that affect galactic security. The Council had let humans go, thinking they were solving a problem. Now they were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength was not their ability to fight, but their willingness to save even those who had wronged them. The price would be everything the Council thought they knew about power and authority in the galaxy. The final assault on Nexus Prime began at dawn on a Tuesday. Council Prime Valdris watched from the Crystal Command Center as 1,000 Savage Imperium ships dropped out of hyperspace around the Council's capital world. 3 years of war had led to this moment, and every simulation showed the same result: complete annihilation of the galactic government. All defensive platforms are online, reported Marshal Vex, though his voice carried no hope. Planetary shields at maximum power, fighter squadrons launching now. Valdris studied the tactical display with the resignation of a being who had lived for 8,000 years. The savage fleet was using formations that perfectly countered every defensive strategy the Council possessed. They had learned too well how to fight beings who never changed their methods. "How long do we have?" Valdris asked. 6 hours, Vex replied. "Maybe 8 if we sacrifice the outer defense rings." The first savage ships were already breaking through the Council's perimeter when space around Nexus Prime suddenly filled with new arrivals. Ships that moved like liquid mercury, their hulls shifting and adapting even as they flew. Vessels that seemed to bend the laws of physics as they maneuvered in patterns no other species could achieve. "Human fleet detected," announced the sensor. Operator, his voice filled with disbelief. 200 ships of unknown configuration. They are moving to intercept the savage forces. Valdris felt something stir in his ancient consciousness. Hope, perhaps, or merely curiosity about how the humans intended to die alongside the Council they had been exiled from. Captain Alex Thompson stood on the bridge of his flagship, the evolved Aurora's Edge, and smiled at the impossible odds before them. His ship now incorporated technology from the ancient precursor network, systems that responded to human neural patterns in ways that still amazed the scientists studying them. "All ships report ready," announced his tactical officer. "The ancient defense platforms are coming online throughout the system." Alex nodded as he watched space around Nexus Prime transform. Structures that had been dormant for millions of years awakened at humanity's touch. Weapons designed by a forgotten civilization powered up to defend a galaxy they had never known. The precursor race had built their network to protect all life from threats like the Savage Imperium. "Signal Admiral Carter," Alex ordered. "Tell her that Guardian Protocol is now active." On Earth, Admiral Lisa Carter received the message and activated the final phase of humanity's response to the galactic crisis. Not conquest or revenge, but salvation offered to those who had rejected them. "Jake," she said to the Foreign Secretary, "transmit our terms to the Council. All channels, all frequencies, so every species in the galaxy can hear." Jake Morrison's voice carried across space to reach every inhabited world. "Citizens of the galaxy, this is Earth speaking. The Savage Imperium seeks to destroy the civilization you have built together. We offer our protection to any world that requests it, regardless of past disagreements. Our terms are simple: mutual respect, equal representation, and an end to the hierarchy that places some species above others." The response was immediate and overwhelming. 43 species accepted human protection in the first hour. Even some Council members quietly activated emergency beacons asking for human assistance. The battle for Nexus Prime became something the galaxy had never seen before. Human ships flowed through space like schools of fish, their formations constantly changing in response to enemy tactics. The ancient defense platforms provided firepower that dwarfed anything the Savage Imperium possessed. Most importantly, the combined force fought with a flexibility that made prediction impossible. Lieutenant Commander Grace Hamilton coordinated the defense from her position near the planet's north pole. Her mixed fleet of humans, draconians, and other allied species moved as one organism, each ship supporting the others in patterns that evolved moment by moment. "Savage forces are attempting to adapt to our weapon frequencies," reported her tactical officer. "Execute Random Protocol Omega," Grace replied calmly. The human fleet suddenly changed everything about how they fought. Weapon types, shield configurations, movement patterns, even the basic laws of physics they seemed to follow. The savage adaptation systems, designed to counter consistent patterns, found themselves facing an enemy that refused to be consistent about anything. Within 2 hours, the Savage Imperium fleet was in full retreat. Within 4 hours, they were completely destroyed. The threat that had terrorized the galaxy for 3 years was eliminated by an enemy they had never fought before. In the aftermath, Council Prime Valdris found himself facing Jake Morrison in the same crystal chamber where humanity had been exiled 3 years earlier. But now the roles were completely reversed. Valdris was asking for terms, and Jake held all the power. "What do you want?" Valdris asked, his energy form flickering with exhaustion and defeat. Jake's response was not what anyone expected. We want to work together, not as rulers and subjects, but as equals. The galaxy is too big and too dangerous for any one species to handle alone. You could conquer us all, Valdris observed. Your technology, your alliances, your military success. You could replace the Council with human authority. Jake shook his head. That would make us exactly what we fought against. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We want to help it grow. The new Galactic Charter was signed 6 months later in a ceremony that included representatives from over 80 species. The Hierarchical Council was replaced by the Galactic Assembly, where every species had an equal voice regardless of age or technological development. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was appointed as the first director of interspecies scientific cooperation. Her quantum communication network became the foundation for research projects that would have been impossible under the old system. Scientists from dozens of worlds working together in real time, sharing discoveries without restriction or political interference. Captain Alex Thompson continued exploring the galaxy with his mixed species crews, but now they worked with full support from the Assembly. The ancient precursor network revealed new secrets every month, technologies that benefited every species willing to cooperate in studying them. General Chris Nelson established the first truly integrated military force in galactic history. Human adaptability, draconian strength, Zephyrian logistics, and dozens of other species contributing their unique abilities to a defense network that could handle any threat. On the anniversary of humanity's exile, Jake Morrison stood before the Galactic Assembly and reflected on how much had changed. 3 years ago, the Council let humans go because they thought we were a problem that needed to be solved. They were right about one thing. We were a problem for the old way of doing things. We asked too many questions, took too many risks, and refused to accept that age equals wisdom. He paused as representatives from across the galaxy listened with the respect that had been denied to humanity for so long. The Council lost more than just another member species when they exiled us. They lost the one thing their ancient civilization needed most, the willingness to change, to grow, to become something better than what they were. We are grateful for the freedom they gave us because it allowed us to become what the galaxy needed us to be. The applause that followed came from beings who had once dismissed humanity as primitive newcomers. Now they understood what the Council had really lost when they let humans go. They had lost their future, and by the time they realized their mistake, humanity had already built a better one for everyone.